Hey everybody, welcome back to another amazing episode of Checkpoint on Campus. I am your host, Norris Howard, joined alongside my absolutely awesome co-host, Jacob Brothers, coming to us from Sandy, Las Vegas. Jacob, what's cracking, my guy?
Hello, Sandy and Wendy. How are you doing?
Listen, but the weather is breaking. It's starting to get back to normal, and hopefully by the end of all this, into April, May, we can go back outside again. I'm so excited. I really
more
hope
sunlight
this happens. Yes. Oh, don't forget daylight savings time coming up this weekend. Spring forward. But we are going to start this week's show with something that Jacob and I are so happy that we finally get to talk about once more, because Overwatch is back, y'all. Collegiate Overwatch is back. The Overwatch League won't be here for another month or so. So if you want your competitive Overwatch fix, this is all you gonna get. So you might as well enjoy it. Jacob, we had a couple big matches going down over the weekend. Who played who?
And honestly, this is kind of better than the Overwatch League, if you want to say that. But we had the University of Missouri take on the University of Akron, which was a big game. And we had the Worcester Polytechnic Institute versus Kennesaw State University. And then we had Miami University of Ohio versus Ohio State. So as far as the streamed matches go, this was the battle of the battle for Ohio.
So, definitely.
Yeah. So So what, Norris?
No, I was saying, and definitely, starting out with this Missouri match against Akron. Again, Akron is a big legacy school. Mizzou, known for being pretty good at Overwatch. They had made noise in previous seasons at the varsity series and whatnot. But they came up against Akron, a team that we hadn't seen a lot of over the course of the past couple years. But now they're really starting to cement themselves in the Overwatch scene. So what went down during this match?
Yeah, so we can kind of break these matches into the two really good teams that play each other, and then the two teams that aren't really hot on, not really on the radar, and then the two very different great teams. So yeah, Akron, we haven't seen them. We would have seen them in Collegiate Clash, but that was all kind of weird. And so really it went to a best of 3. So Akron did eventually win 2-1. But literally all 3 of these maps, the teams were pretty much identical. The teams pretty much took turns of who can execute better. And look, we're all good at the game. And that really is how it went when Akron, their dominoes fell better for map 1 on Ilios, and then on map 2, Mizzou's dominoes fell better. Both teams were playing stable defenses, both teams were playing a stable offense. And then really on map 3, Gibraltar, it just kind of came down to, on the final stretch of the map, Akron was playing dive on defense, and they have closer respawns. So Mizzou's not going to be able to break that. And so I do think that these teams will meet again. Well, also map 3 was Akron's map pick. So I do think that also actually played a factor. So I do think that as we go deeper into this season, these teams are going to meet up again, and these teams are also going to be staying as a top 20 school, both of them. They're both very good. So now we can see Akron's time. It's their time to shine. They are putting the pieces together, and it's working. They're not doing anything I'd say amazing, but they are definitely better than the lower half of the league. No question.
Absolutely, and word out to J-Don DPS for Akron, who had a great match, especially on that Ilios map. But I want to talk a little bit about the front line for Missouri, because really they kept them in the entirety of this series, and even though they ultimately did not win out, that was some really good tanking I saw from Missouri, and especially their Zarya. So I was very pleased with seeing what was going on with Missouri. Yeah,
I kind of have a comment that I want to get your thoughts on, because I feel like when you have a team and your best 2 players are your tank line, I feel like you're not going to win the majority of your games.
You're almost never going to win.
Because your support, because I feel like, granted, the support job is difficult, but it's straightforward of what you're supposed to do, even if you're someone like Lucio, and it's difficult to be a good tank. But you need the damage. And even though most of these tanks are high damaging tanks, if your top player isn't the DPS, you're not really going to be getting your picks, and that leads to you not winning the fights. So
well, in the case of a Zarya or a double bubble comp, the thing about it is you do want your Zarya out there dealing damage. The problem with that is if they're not then backed up by the DPS players, your only damage is coming from somebody who should also be protecting people. And that's sort of where you have the missed opportunity of playing, a tank line that's very aggressive or a tank line that's very skilled. And in terms of your support players, as far as I'm concerned, I think support is the most difficult, but also can be the most impactful positions in Overwatch, because you look at Lucio, he gets the sound barrier. That's basically the "we can't die" button. And then you have the Baptiste, who literally has a "we can't die"
ability.
Yeah, and then you have the amp matrix and all this other stuff. So I think support is absolutely critical. But I agree with you, if you have really, really good tanking and mediocre DPS and mediocre support, you're probably not going to win if you had the inverse. If you have really
and both these DPS were great.
Supports.
They both had really great Mei, but they weren't the best player on the team. And so, separating walls can only do so much.
Yeah, and so even though I want to very quickly hit Worcester Polytechnic and Kennesaw State very quickly. Worcester Polytechnic ended up winning 2-0. Again, it's not a lot to talk about it. Kennesaw State was a little bit outclassed in this match. It became very evident that they kind of were not on the same level.
Well, what I think what it was is because when you're climbing the ladder in Overwatch, all the way up to like Diamond, a lot of players believe like if you just have your really good player and you just play, or your character, and you just kind of play your main, you can get pretty high in competitive Overwatch. And that's what this team felt like. They were pulling out the Winston and the Brigitte and the Ana and the Echo, like characters that are good, but you don't really see them in the meta. And these players did do really well. They like even on their second map, Kennesaw, they went all the way to the end, and they were a force to be reckoned with. But when you're not playing the meta and the other team is, you can't really compete.
You're always going to be at a disadvantage. And lastly, I definitely want to touch upon this Ohio State versus Miami of Ohio match, because this match was dumb. It was insane. Dumb, but it was so entertaining, this match. So obviously Ohio State ended up winning out 2-1, excuse me. But Miami of Ohio really stepped up and showed that they can be competitive.
Well, see, here's the thing. I think Ohio State's now the team to beat in the entire collegiate Overwatch scene. And they're not at their peak yet, which is kind of the scary part. So when I was watching them play, the main thing that I saw was the tenacity. They literally, they were like an anime protagonist. Okay, no matter what stage of the game it was, they were going full force, full aggression. They never really gave space at any time. And then you combine that with their DPS. I'm losing it at the moment. Performance. My brain wasn't performing. So Performance plays a McCree. And honestly, he is the best McCree in all of collegiate Overwatch. It's unbelievable. He was pulling 4 kills out of his hat before even the ultimate. And no matter what state Ohio State was in, they would always show up and they would always have that aggression. And Miami's very different, because Miami is a team that excels when they have the preparation. When they're able to set up, they will win. And when you go up against a school like Ohio, where they don't let you have that preparation, it falls apart. Because you can even see in map 1, Ilios, like Miami, they had a great setup. Fozix from the Overwatch League, Washington Justice, was able to play Symmetra, and all those turrets were in the right place, and they rolled. And then Ohio State was like, well, what if we just don't give you space? And like Potatoes, amazing tank. I have never seen a Reinhardt that I actually enjoyed watching for the most part. And this is the only Reinhardt that was like comfortable. Like at all times, he knew where to turn, he knew where to swing, he knew when the fire strike was. Then you combine that with a D.Va who's very mobile and is looking for all the flanks. And then the tank line, the support line was also doing their job to the best of their, to the max, sorry. But
to tip top max.
To the top max. I'm so excited about Ohio State that I'm kind of stumbling over my words. I'm a little in love, actually, to be honest with you. But then you see their issues for Ohio State. And their main issues is over-aggression and their ultimate usage. So, because even in Kings Row, this could have been a 2-0 game. Easy. 100%. They were 2.98 meters from winning it in the second map. But then Potatoes just kind of ran a little ahead. And then Fozix was playing a Mei. And they were able to kill the tanks before that final overtime push. And then they had the ultimate economy. And then that was that.
Yeah, and on the last map on on Route 66, Ohio State was able to really play that aggressive style to their benefit, because you had grab on Junkrat, which again, I love seeing a Junkrat at high levels because you don't get to see him a lot. But when you do see him, it's just like, why even have shields? Yeah. Why even try? Why even throw up any kind of barrier whatsoever? Because it's gonna get busted. And they were able to essentially roll and end up winning this thing. And the thing that I liked about it so much watching Ohio State, and you know me, I don't like to compliment Ohio State, but the thing that I liked so much about it is the exact inverse of what we said about not Missouri, but who played Missouri? Freaking Akron. Too many Ohio schools.
Yeah.
Too many Ohio schools. But the exact opposite of what we said about Akron is that the tank line was good, but the tank line wasn't the star of the show. You know what I mean? That's what that's what we said about Missouri. The tank line was the star of the show. It's the DPS. And so when you have the DPS that are the stars of the show, they're able to take over. You're able to play aggressive. You're able to really go out there and win these team fights. And even though it was close, they ended up winning out. So I was very excited. And the synergy was there.
That was the thing too, because like when you have someone like Performance, because that's the thing, they're almost built like an NBA team where like they have like their star and then they have the supporting cast. And so when you have Grab, who's doing a great job on Junkrat, he's not the main DPS of that lineup. He's just trying to clear the way for the hit scan player to click heads. And when you have a player who can actually click heads, you win all your team fights. But another big thing about Ohio State in this match was they weren't countering Kha'Zix, but they were countering Sombra. This is a team that knows how to play against Sombra, which is one of the most broken characters in Overwatch if used properly. An EMP can absolutely win every team fight if you're in the right place at the right time. But this team knew all the corners to check. They were always on top of their flanks. Kha'Zix got one ultimate on their entirety of defense using Sombra. That's so hard to do. And it wasn't even the player. It was just this team knew how to combat that character. And when you have a team that knows how to do that, that puts them at a significant advantage above most other teams in the league.
Just wrapping up everything that went down over this week, of the top 15, we do have some familiar faces. Ohio State, obviously, Harrisburg, UT Dallas, Northwood still in the mix. But defending fall split champions or fall semester champions, Utah, they ended up losing to Ohio State as well.
Ohio State.
They're not looking good. In Maryville, also lost to Northwood. We could be seeing the changing of the guard guys happening in Overwatch at the collegiate level. But that's going to be it for this wrap up of round 5 and 6 of collegiate Overwatch. Obviously, stay tuned for more information where we'll be breaking everything down happening over the next few rounds. And don't forget, you can also catch the college esports update where you see even more scores. We're adding a little ticker down at the bottom, so even if we don't talk about it, you're able to see who won against whom.